Role models are useful, whether we are adults, children, or corporations. When corporations look for role models, they tend to focus on what the big guys are doing. They look at firms like J&J or Medtronic, Roche or Sanofi, and assume that we can somehow emulate their business models. This is understandable, but flawed for at least two reasons. Firstly, it assumes that such firms have a single business model to copy, when in fact they are coalitions of businesses containing several different models. Secondly, it supposes that what works for them will work for us, even though we face very different situations. In fact, we might learn better lessons from smaller companies and the parallels with biological evolution. As ever, I'll take you on a short detour into the theory before I return to the practical lessons. Traditional models of how industries evolve predict that industries always consolidate because bigger firms have economies of scale or scope. Eventually, according to this thinking, a small number of firms come to dominate the industry. In one Harvard Business Review paper, for example, the authors claimed that, after about 25 years, 3 or 4 firms usually have about 70% market share. But this was work by consultants, and it was merely an observation without any underlying science. In fact, the life sciences industry has consolidated much less than that. Even after decades of consolidation, the top 10 pharma companies have only about 40% of the market. And the medtech sector is even less concentrated than that. As in many other cases, the traditional ways of looking at an industry don't work well in the life sciences sector. Academic research differs from consultancy research. It focuses on the science of how industries evolve, not just describing what has happened in the past. My work, for example, is based on the science of Darwinian evolution. Applying that perspective to the development of the pharmaceutical industry and the medical technology industry challenges the traditional approach and provides a better explanation of what we see in reality. Academic research differs from consultancy research. It focuses on the science of how industries evolve, not just describing what has happened in the past. My work, for example, is based on the science of Darwinian evolution. Applying that perspective to the development of the life sciences industry challenges the traditional approach and provides a better explanation of what we see in reality. Biological analogies are a good way to understand this. The Earth's total biomass, excluding bacteria, is about 550 billion tonnes of carbon. Yet the most successful animal in terms of biomass is the Arctic krill, which makes up about 1/1000% of the total. In biology, consolidation hasn't happened. This is relevant because the life sciences industry is, like the biosphere, a complex adaptive system. This means that we should expect it to behave more like the biosphere than to follow the rules of a simple traditional research. In other words, we shouldn't expect the sort of consolidation predicted by the consultants. We should expect a much more distributed industry with market share spread over a large number of business models, which are the business equivalent of biological species. And that's exactly what comes out of my research. Take, for example, the recent industry announcement by Almirall, a Spanish pharma company with less than 2,000 employees and a sub-1 billion turnover. By buying the dermatology portfolio of Allergan, they are trying to develop a variety of business model known as the specialty dominator, as I've discussed elsewhere in my writing. What Almirall is doing is the direct analogue of a species evolving to compete against bigger, stronger rivals by trying to dominate a particular ecological niche. We see other firms attempting a similar evolutionary strategy, such as Grünenthal in pain and Ferring in women's health. It's even more common in medical technology, as we see in orthopedics or robotics. The idea is that by adapting very specifically to the very particular demands of a business habitat, a smaller firm can control enough market resources to thrive without directly competing against other firms. In biology, this is called resource partitioning. It's what penguins and wildebeest do, for example. This evolutionary strategy, seen in both biology and in business, has 3 useful lessons for smaller pharma and medtech firms who are trying to compete with bigger rivals. The first is to be wary of simplistic research. Always look for a robust scientific foundation. The second is that our industry is unlikely to consolidate in a traditional manner. We probably won't have 3 or 4 firms owning 70% of the market. And the third is that for smaller firms, it probably makes more sense to imitate other small firms rather than trying to copy large firms. After all, blue whales are an endangered species. Penguins and wildebeest are not.